is there any merit to the other viewpoint on things? Like, do they make any good points about how these policies have been proven since, I guess, like the George Floyd days is probably when this stuff really started to be implemented. Over that period of a few years, do they have any evidence to say that this actually has been making things safer?
Honestly, to be honest, I don't know. I can't say yes or no one way or another. I haven't looked deep into like the concrete issues or numbers on that, I guess you could say. If I were to think about it, I mean, the problem is that even if up front it was safer, who is to stop that person from doing it that night again, right? So like if a cop stops the car or tries to stop the car, runs off, right? Gets away. 3 hours later, they're doing the same thing, runs off, gets away. Well, the second cop may not have known that the first cop tried to stop this car. So the second time that they attempt a pursuit before they cancel it, they end up killing somebody. Okay? So what's the difference if they're going to continue the behavior and there's no change or there's no consequences from it in the first place? So it may take them 47 times to start a pursuit and then hurt somebody, but that 47th time could have stopped at 1 or 2. Instead, it's just letting them go until eventually something will happen. Something bad will happen, right? It's like using duct tape to seal a boat, right? The first couple times you go out in the water, you might be able to make it happen, especially with Flex Tape. We're not sponsored, but awesome, right? You might be able to make it happen. But after a while, that tape is going to start to deteriorate, and an accident is going to happen. It's going to happen. So if you keep just like putting a Band-Aid, I mean, you heard it yourself. Like a lot of the Kia boys were like, no, we're not afraid to get caught. Like, why would we be? We're going to be out the next day.
Yeah, exactly.
It doesn't matter. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't matter, So
there was a quote where the police chief said that prison is not an acceptable option for a 10-year-old, but the adults who can stop this behavior need to act in order to stop this moving forward. And my only thought there is, well, that's you. Like, you
Correct.
are the adult that can make a difference here. And I feel like he was alluding to
You're saying the
parents.
chief or the...
Well, I believe, I wrote down here that the police chief said that.
I mean, like, are you saying you as in that's the chief's
the police
responsibility?
as a
or like,
whole, yeah.
Okay.
And I guess, I mean, I don't know exactly who sets his limitations, but I'm assuming that, I don't know where the failure happens in the process, right? It seems like maybe it is the people that aren't prosecuting these charges. It ends up being a catch and release thing. But I'm saying, yeah, the police are the adults that, can make the decision to throw in jail, or maybe it is the prosecuting office, the attorney's office, right? Whoever's not doing that, right? Those are the adults that can make a difference moving forward. I feel like he was alluding to the parents in the kid's life need to act in order to stop this moving forward. But I just feel like the parents of these kids have got to just be helpless. I mean, they just got to be wishing that their kid would be in prison so that way they at least know they're safe.
Well, there's got to be, and look, I mean, this is old school too, but there's got to be like a boot camp out there, right? To make your kids, like, to break them in, like to be like, you have it nice here, man. You want to go, you have to make your bed twice a day. You got to, if you don't, like, you're going to do hard labor, like chores. There's got to be some out there like that, right? To force your kid to go to. Like, I don't know.
So they also said that the system doesn't have answers for offenders this young.
Correct.
But in 2019, they shut down the 2 facilities that housed kids of this age that were doing these types of things that were in operation for the past 100 years. And they said that they replaced them with more data-driven solutions that are like in-house programs, things like that. And, here we are in 2023, 4 years after that. I mean, we have the highest rate. It was a record rate in 2023 of these types of crimes happening, and over half of them are being done by young people, juveniles. And so it seems like it isn't really helping. I mean, they did have those solutions in the system. The reason we don't have them now is because in 2019 they shut them down.
So that is directly correlated. How many times you hear, man, there's so much mental health issues out there now. Like, it seems such more prevalent that people are having crisis and stuff like that. Yeah, that's because they closed down a bunch of the asylums, whatever you want to call them, and people don't have places to stay at anymore. It's the same concept, just with kids, you know? And unfortunately, like, these kids, whether it's maybe they probably do have some screws loose in the head, but, like, they are going to ruin their life. Have you seen Beyond Scared Straight? That show where they, like, yell in their face and stuff?
Yeah.
Dude, these prisoners are like, you're going to ruin your life. Like, I listened to, what's it called? There's a podcast that's really good. It's based in San Quentin Prison in California, and it's prisoners that talk.
Really?
Yep, it's the first ever podcast from a prison. Now, granted, right, it has to go through like 6 channels before it can get released to Apple Podcasts to make sure they're not like doing anything weird. But they interviewed a guy there. San Quentin is like max level prison. Like, people have murdered several people that are there, right? So they interviewed a guy, and he was part of the Crips out in California. And he said that he straight up murdered a guy in the gas station because he was in the wrong gas station. Like, straight up, like, he was a block over where he should have been territory-wise, and just shot and killed him. And the guy's like, how selfish of me to quickly make a decision to end a person's life. And he kind of alluded to back, because he was so young, he's like, these kids have no idea the quick decisions that they're making are going to make their consequences last forever. And he said it's such a shame to see these kids just not care. You know, I mean, how dangerous is it that these kids don't care about life? They don't care about anything else. You don't care about taking somebody's life. You don't care about anything else that comes before that. And that's what's scary, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And you said, you don't know if they have screws loose, whether they do have actual mental illnesses causing this, or they just are fucking out of control. The people are against these facilities for these people because they can be rough environments, right? It can be seen as like cruel, right? So it's just like how prison's rough, right? But the fact is that if you are a mom, especially if you're a single mom and you're trying to hold down a household, you don't have a lot of money coming in, probably working a lot of hours for not much, you do not have the knowledge or like the training or the time or the resources to control your kid. Like, a parent should have the right to look at, law enforcement and say, like, listen, like, I'm worried. I don't know where my kid is at. I would rather him be in a facility where I know that he's safe. I know that there's programs and it's regimented to give him a chance. Are you talking about like
juvenile detention or
like that? Or I don't know what they had going on at these facilities that they shut down. But like, it's better to have a facility for these kids, so that way at least the parents know that they're safe. They know that it's off their plate, because a parent is doomed to fail. I mean, sometimes, man, like, there's nothing you can do as a parent if your kid is just fucking out of control.
Yeah.
Like
if
no matter how good of a parent or how understanding you are, or even how strict you are, like, parenting can only go so far, especially if you're just doing it alone. And so they're asking for this help, but they're just not receiving it. And I feel like a lot of these rules are coming out to catch and release and not inflict punishment on these kids as a way, it's framed as a way to help the kids and not, change their lives forever by condemning them. But ultimately, I think the ones that want to get them under control and want to get them off the streets, even if it does mean punishing them, that really is what's going to help them. And it just seems like the ones that are advocating for not enacting these punishments, they don't really care about the kids. They just care about the public image. In the same way we're talking about with schools that are like overly accommodating to the detriment of a kid, it's not so much about, helping the children. It's more about not being called out publicly. You want to be seen as the one making the right decision, even if the data isn't there to support that.
Well, and you have to remember, too, because I know we talked about this before, but elected officials, man, like Mary Moriarty is elected, to be the county attorney. So, I mean, I hate to say it, people, but, you voted for that. You know what I mean?